The reason I do not celebrate American holidays. Okay, I've read the book of Galatians many times. For the longest time, before I really got studying in on who's who in the Bible, the regions, their culture, all this kind of stuff, I didn't know who the Galatians even were. Now I understand today they are Gaelic people. They are the ones who roam. The book, the movie Golden Eagle. It's about these people. The Gauls were kind of like pagan white tribes of the north. They were the Pictish people. They were kind of like the Berbers, the Sith. They were, some were nomadic, some were just, anyway, they did sacrifice of different types. If you ever heard of the bog body they found, some of them were what we call the Nordic people today. They were polytheistic. They had a lot of different gods. They celebrated the solstice days, right? So what that means is, on every single solstice, they had a specific holiday that was dedicated to some false god. And see, if you look up a witch's calendar, or what some people like to call a pagan calendar, you will find out that every single American holiday falls on a solstice day. And this was done by the Catholic Church because they at one time were polytheistic, which means they worshipped many gods. Some of these holidays they wanted to keep, so they kept them while giving, painting a cross on it with a spray paint bottle. And so here, basically what they did was they took a holiday which was dedicated to Odin, which is December 25th. It's the winter solstice. You've heard Christmas songs talk about the Yule tide and all that. They put it right in your face. Yule is another name for Odin. So is Wednesday. The days of the week are named after Nordic gods. Monday is Moon Day. Tuesday is Tyr's Day, which is the god of war in Nordic mythology. Wednesday is Odin. Thursday is Thor's Day. Friday is Freya's Day. And Saturday is Surtur's Day, which is the same as Satan, Saturn, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of people don't know the world they even live in, right? So, in the book of Galatians, the Gauls are the really tall, blonde-headed people that the Romans fought against in the north, around Great Britain and areas like that. These were the Celts. These were a lot of the northern white tribes. They celebrated these days. And in the book of Galatians, the Apostle Paul says, I fear that I have labored on you in vain. Meaning, he brought them the New Testament gospel. They converted, but then they went back to celebrating these solstice days, because the Apostle Paul says, for you keep times, seasons, months, and years. And he's talking about these days. And see, only God can create a holy day. We create holy days all the time. We got Black Friday. Easter is actually dedicated to Ishtar. Why is it about Jesus and a rabbit with eggs? Ishtar was a goddess of sexual immorality, more or less a female that wants to crush men in power. She's the one that slips in and kills kingdoms, you know what I mean? She sways the kings into doing things that corrupts their judgment, causes them to do things out of lust, causing their whole kingdom to collapse and taking over the kingdom. Like Jezebel in the Bible is a good example. Anyway, she in her symbology, she's always a woman standing on lions' heads. That's a big giveaway right there by itself. Anyway, Easter, when you look at the pagan calendar, it spells it Eostra, or it spells it pronounces it a different way also. But it's all dedicated to Ishtar. Yule is Odin. Beltane is dedicated to Baal, which was the rival to Yahweh in all the ancient, all the Old Testament texts. And Baal is still active today. Baal is the same as Thor, Zeus, Jupiter. Anyway, and there's other parts in the Bible where it talks about these people sitting down and eating and having feasts to these gods that are not to do with Yahweh, Yeshua, and all these things. Well, when I learned what the Apostle Paul was saying to the Galatians, that made me realize a whole lot. And then I realized what a holiday actually was. It's a holy day. God created the only holy days. The issue is trying to figure out, as a Christian, how do you celebrate certain holidays of the Jews? Which ones would you celebrate, and how? Because there's a lot of the way they celebrate those holidays that probably is not good. But according to the New Testament, and certain things that exclude Yeshua in those holidays. Because to me, the Passover is about your temple, your heart, the blood over the doorpost. The spirit of death passes by, you escape wrath. Same thing when you accept Yeshua, that's what happens. Well, so I'm still trying to, figure out a way to do this, and because I want to do things in that way. See, I don't, and not only that, like, you notice Christmas is one of the most depressing holidays in the world. Easter makes no sense. Oh, Jesus, okay, so he's risen. Okay, what's a rabbit got to do with it? Did he, crap a rabbit on that day? I'm not exactly sure how this happens here. Or Santa and Jesus on Christmas Day. The confusion. There's no confusion in God. Little kids are, walking around with a question mark. So is Santa Jesus? Garbage. I just don't do it. I don't do it. Not to condemn anyone else. But I'm sure a lot of people have read over these same scriptures and never put any of that together. Or maybe you did and you had a question mark about it. Should we be celebrating these things? Because, when I look at it, I think, okay, so in ancient times, Rome celebrated Saturnalia, which was dedicated to Saturn. Moloch. It was the whole month of December, but we convert it to a Jesus day and give him one day. You see what I'm saying here? It doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, Jesus, he's our God and all that. Yeah, we'll give him one day. But the Apostle Paul was talking about how you say you're with Jesus, but you're still celebrating these months, times, seasons, and years. And see, these were the people who did their rituals around Stonehenge and places like that in the north. And see, I descend from that area. There's a lot of Celt in me. This dark burgundy red hair, yeah, that's where that comes from. This jaw, this brow. Well, this is probably a lot of Irish too. Look, so I got an evil leprechaun face. But those are the regions my family comes from. Almost everything in my DNA is either Cornwall, Iceland, mostly all the Netherlands, a good deal of British, so that whole region, that's my people, you know what I mean? And And I know all these things about that region because when I did Ancestry.com and found out what my DNA actually was, I started studying up on all of those regions. I do a lot of research, like a lot of research on things. Just random stupid subjects. I'm that guy that, like, when somebody mentions a word, I just come off with the details I know about it, and everybody's like, how do you know all this senseless knowledge? You know what I mean? I just like, I wonder what that means. And I'm like, you just go down through it until I get it all, you know? So, I don't know. I just put these things out there. You make your own decision on it. It's not to condemn anyone. I'm just saying, read the book of Galatians again, and then do a little research on the Gauls and what they were. These were like druidic type tribes. They worshipped many false gods, like humans with deer heads and weird, weird stuff like that. And the stories of the Fae, which means the shining ones, which is basically the same thing as either angels or, just divine beings that they consider divine beings. Which that's more to do with Nordic, most Nordic related things. Anyway, I think these are cool little facts, and I think a lot of people read over Galatians and they're like, what's that mean? Well, like, here you go. So you do with it what you will, but I'm going to put this here, and you can just do what you want.